The year is 1965, but this is not the world as we know it. Instead, we find ourselves in a chilling alternate reality, a world that has been shaped by the iron grip of a Nazi victory. The streets are familiar, yet everything feels off. There's an undercurrent of dread, a sense that something fundamental has been lost. The laughter of children is subdued, conversations are hushed, and every passerby glances over their shoulder, wary of unseen eyes. The city, once vibrant and alive, now moves to the rhythm of fear and control. The world shivers in the shadow of the swastika. Towering banners hang from every building, their red and black insignia a constant reminder of who holds power. The skyline is dominated not by hope or progress, but by the oppressive symbols of a regime that has rewritten history. The air itself feels heavier, as if the city is suffocating beneath the weight of tyranny. Every corner, every alley, every public square is watched, patrolled, and controlled. The sense of freedom that once defined these streets has been replaced by a suffocating atmosphere of suspicion and obedience. Imagine a world where the Allied forces never breached the beaches of Normandy. The sands that should have been marked by the footprints of liberators remain untouched, silent witnesses to a history that never unfolded. There are no stories of heroism here, no tales of resistance or hope. Instead, the coast is eerily quiet, a symbol of what was lost when the tides of war turned in favor of darkness. The world beyond these shores never felt the surge of liberation, and the consequences ripple through every aspect of daily life. Picture a reality where the roar of the German war machine never ceased, its hunger for conquest never satiated. The thunder of panzer tanks echoes through the streets, a constant reminder of the regime's unyielding dominance. Cities across Europe have fallen, their cultures and identities crushed beneath the relentless advance of Nazi power. The world map has been redrawn, borders erased, and entire nations forced to kneel. Resistance is met with brutal force, and the dream of freedom seems more distant than ever. This is the chilling reality we must confront, a world where Hitler's Third Reich stands triumphant. The grand city squares that once celebrated diversity and democracy now serve as stages for displays of absolute power. Crowds gather, not out of joy, but out of obligation. Their faces a mask of forced enthusiasm. Hitler's speeches echo through loudspeakers, his words shaping the very thoughts of the populace. Parades of military might are not celebrations, but warnings, a demonstration of what happens to those who dare to dissent. The air is thick with fear, the silence heavy with unspoken dissent. People move quickly, eyes cast downward, careful not to attract attention. Families whisper behind closed doors, terrified that a careless word could lead to disaster. Trust is a rare commodity. Neighbors eye each other with suspicion, knowing that informants are everywhere. The Gestapo's presence is felt even when unseen, their reach extending into every home, every workplace, every school. The cost of resistance is high, and the price of survival is silence. The very fabric of society has been reshaped in the image of the Nazi ideology. Propaganda saturates every aspect of life, from the posters that line the streets to the lessons taught in schools. Children are raised to idolize the regime, their innocence twisted by a constant barrage of hate and fear. Art, music, and literature are censored, stripped of anything that does not serve the state. The dreams and ambitions of an entire generation are molded to fit the narrow vision of the Reich, leaving little room for individuality or hope. This is not a world we recognize, but rather a haunting distortion, a chilling echo of what might have been. It is a stark reminder of the fragile nature of freedom and the terrible cost of its loss. In this alternate history, the world is a colder, darker place, one where the human spirit is stifled and the future is written in fear. As we imagine this reality, we are reminded of the importance of remembering the past and of never taking our liberties for granted. History hinges on pivotal moments, those rare, fleeting instants when the course of nations and even the fate of the world can be altered by a single decision, a stroke of luck, or a twist of fate. These moments are the crossroads upon which destinies are forged and lost, and nowhere is this more evident than in the story of World War II. The outcome of the war was not inevitable. It was shaped by countless choices, some made in the heat of battle, others in the quiet of war rooms where generals pored over maps and weighed impossible odds. Every skirmish, every maneuver, every diplomatic telegram sent or intercepted played a part in the unfolding drama. The world as we know it today is the result of these decisions. but it could have been so very different. To truly imagine a world where the Nazis emerged victorious, we must first understand the delicate balance of power that existed at the time. The Allies and the Axis were locked in a deadly game of strategy where a single misstep could have tipped the scales. What if at one of these crucial junctures the Axis powers had made the right move or the Allies had faltered? To envision a Nazi victory, we must rewind the clock, identify the critical junctures where fate could have swung in Hitler's favor. Imagine historians today tracing their fingers along the faded lines of old maps, pondering the what-ifs that haunt the corridors of history. Each highlighted point marks a moment when the world teetered on the edge of a different future. Perhaps the Battle of Britain ended not in defiance, but in the smoky ruins of London, paving the way for Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of Great Britain. Imagine the Luftwaffe gaining air superiority, British defences crumbling, and German troops landing on English shores. The Union Jack, once a symbol of resilience, now lowered in defeat. The world would have watched in shock as the last bastion of resistance in Western Europe fell, and the Nazi war machine rolled on, unchecked. Or picture the Eastern Front, where the vast resources of the Soviet Union were not enough to halt the relentless push of the Wehrmacht. What if the harsh Russian winter had not slowed the German advance, or if Soviet counterattacks had failed? The Red Army, exhausted and outmaneuvered, might have been forced to retreat deeper into the heartland, leaving Moscow and Leningrad to fall. The swastika could have flown over the Kremlin, and the dream of a Nazi-dominated Eurasia might have become reality. In this alternate timeline, the German war machine would have pressed ever eastward, crushing resistance and redrawing the map of Europe. The world would have watched in horror as entire nations were subjugated, their cultures erased, their people enslaved or worse. The consequences of such a victory would have echoed for generations. Maybe the United States, hesitant and divided, never fully committed to the fight in Europe. Imagine a nation torn by isolationist sentiment, its leaders reluctant to send troops across the Atlantic. Factories that once roared with the sounds of war production now stand silent, as America turns inward, watching the world burn from afar. Without the arsenal of democracy, the Allies would have been left to fight alone, their chances of victory dwindling with each passing day. In this world, the Axis powers consolidate their grip on Europe, their banners flying over once free cities. Resistance movements are crushed, and hope fades as the Nazi regime imposes its brutal order. The world map is redrawn, and the ideals of freedom and democracy are pushed to the brink of extinction. The possibilities are as numerous as they are terrifying. Each alternate path is a chilling reminder of how close the world came to a very different and much darker reality. In the end, history is not just a record of what happened, but a testament to what might have been. With the fall of Europe, the Nazi nightmare becomes a continent's reality. The once vibrant cities and towns of Europe, filled with the sounds of daily life, are now shrouded in an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. Streets that once echoed with laughter and commerce now resound with the heavy march of German boots, and the sight of Nazi banners fluttering from government buildings is a constant reminder of the new oppressive order. For millions, the world has changed overnight, and the future is suddenly dark and unknowable. The jackboot crushes dissent, replacing it with the suffocating ideology of the Third Reich. Any sign of resistance is met with swift and brutal retaliation. Political opponents, intellectuals, and anyone suspected of disloyalty are rounded up, interrogated, and often disappear without a trace. The Gestapo and SS enforce a climate of terror, where neighbors are encouraged to inform on each other, and even a whispered word against the regime can lead to imprisonment or worse. The press, the arts, and education are all brought under strict Nazi control, ensuring that only the party's message is heard. From the English Channel to the Ural Mountains, the swastika casts a long and ominous shadow. The reach of Nazi power seems limitless, stretching across borders and cultures, imposing a single, chilling vision on an entire continent. Landmarks that once symbolized national pride are now draped in the insignia of the conqueror. Daily life is governed by curfews, rationing, and the ever-present threat of violence. For many, hope is a distant memory, replaced by the constant struggle to survive under occupation. The map of Europe has been redrawn. Centuries-old boundaries are erased with the stroke of a pen, replaced by lines that serve only the ambitions of the Reich. Countries are carved up, annexed, or turned into puppet regimes, their sovereignty stripped away. For the people living in these lands, identity and nationality become dangerous topics, as the Nazis seek to erase cultures and histories that do not fit their vision. The very concept of Europe is being rewritten, one border at a time. Lands deemed essential to the Reich's expansion have been absorbed, their population subjected to the brutal realities of Nazi rule. Entire communities are uprooted, with families torn apart and sent to labor camps or deported to distant territories. The Nazis exploit these populations for forced labor, sending men, women, and even children to work in factories, mines, and fields under inhumane conditions. Fear and uncertainty dominate daily life, as rumors of atrocities and disappearances spread through the occupied territories. The rest of Europe exists as vassal states, forced to serve the economic and military needs of the new order. Resources are stripped from conquered lands to fuel the Nazi war machine, while local governments are coerced into collaboration, often against the will of their people. Black markets and underground resistance movements spring up in defiance, but the risks are immense. Across the continent, the dream of freedom endures, flickering in the shadows as Europe waits and hopes for liberation from the iron grip of Nazi domination. The victory in Europe emboldens the Nazi regime, its ambitions reaching across the Atlantic. The United States, though spared the ravages of direct conflict, finds itself in a world where the balance of power has shifted irrevocably. The isolationist sentiments that once held sway now crumble in the face of a new global reality. The United States, thrust into the role of reluctant superpower, faces the daunting task of containing the Nazi threat, a threat that looms ever larger with each passing year. The insidious nature of Nazi rule reveals itself not only in grand pronouncements and military campaigns, but in the quiet moments of everyday life. The world under the swastika is one where fear and suspicion poison even the simplest interactions. Children are indoctrinated from a young age, taught to embrace the Nazi ideology and to view anyone deemed different with fear and hatred. The arts and media are warped, transformed into tools of propaganda, relentlessly promoting the Nazi message. The Nazi obsession with power extends beyond military might and territorial conquest. It permeates the realms of science, technology, and culture. The world witnesses a perverse fusion of innovation and oppression. Scientific advancements are twisted, serving the sinister aims of the regime. The quest for racial purity fuels horrific medical experiments. Technological innovation focuses on creating ever more efficient tools of control and destruction.